Good afternoon, everyone. As we take a look at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, where the Vikings lost to the Colts 28-11 this afternoon. Welcome to Vikings Postgame Live here at U.S. Bank Stadium, presented by Mystic Lake. I'm Mark Rosen, joined by Pete Bercich and Ben Leber. Coming up in the show, we will hear from head coach Mike Zimmer, the quarterback Kirk Cousins, and safety Anthony Harris. But first, Ben and Pete, there's no way to sugarcoat this. As former players yourself, the last thing you want to hear is we're just not competitive right now. And I don't think there's any doubt after watching the first game here against Green Bay and then what happened in Indy today, the Vikings just do not look like a competitive football team. Ben, let's start with you.
Well, I think the most disappointing thing for me is you look at game one. We didn't know what we had out of this football team. There's no preseason games.
Right.
We don't know what these guys look like. We have a young secondary. What do they look like? What's the new revamped defensive line look like? So that's game one.
Right.
There was no improvement into game two, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's one thing to lose, but it's another to continue to make the same mistakes and the same mistakes, and I think the lack of improvement was the most disappointing thing for me.
Pete, is it a matter of mistakes, or are we just seeing the Vikings, for lack of a better term, being out-personnelled right now? I mean, especially in the front, the defensive line's getting pushed around again for the second straight week and kind of go by both sides of the line.
I mean, you have a bit of a big guy problem there. My thing is after watching this offense for 2 weeks now, what's their identity?
Yeah.
What do they do well? Who do they live and die with? We want to run the ball. Well, what kind of runs do we? How do we want to run the football? If we want to do play actions and bootlegs and things off of that, then where are those? The timing of our passing game is awful right now. Cousins gets to the top of his drop. He doesn't know. He's late on either all the timing throws on the play actions and things, or he gets to the top of his drop, and if something's not there, he doesn't get to he doesn't know where his outlets are. It's just the timing is terrible. Focus on Adam Thielen. You know, we're one-dimensional in that passing game, and it's just not working.
Yeah.
Our passing game does not strike fear in anyone. And so they have to figure out, what is it that we do well and what are we going to do going forward? And I think it's got to be Dalvin Cook. He's the one guy that, he playing to the end, fighting to the end. Reward him. Let him be the identity of this offense.
Yeah, for the second straight week, the Vikings' first possession was very successful. They had to settle for a field goal, but you saw glimpses of, well, maybe this will continue, and this will be the trends. We take a look at some of the highlights of what took place at Lucas Oil. I mean, again, the Vikings got off well. Kirk Cousins comes on the field. A few fans in there. This is what they wanted to do all day long.
Absolutely. It's a two-back running game. I mean, they had trouble with this the week before. You get the fullback in there, downhill running style, and he did a great job.
We'll take a look at this play again, Ben, later on, but a terrific interception play by Anthony Harris there and Eric Wilson, excuse me.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have the defense finally get a takeaway. You're always asking your defense to get takeaways, but more importantly when you're in that part of the field.
Look away. Second straight week, Kirk Cousins safety.
And that's the thing, is it not as if it was the cornerback cat and he was blindsided. He had plenty of time to get rid of that football.
There's a pass to Mr. Jefferson, and again, the young man finally getting a chance to shine, but not in a losing cause. And Ngakoue coming up with the key strip sack. This is what he's known for, but unfortunately, Indianapolis fell on the ball. Phillip Rivers did his thing kind of as they rolled on late in the game, as you can see, and then Dalvin Cook finished things off with the touchdown to make it final 28-11 as the Vikings converted yet another two-point conversion, but too little too late. First time Mike Zimmer started 0-2 in his tenure as a head coach. We take a look at the final score here, 28-11 the final. Ben, what sticks out about those statistics there?
Well, I think just like last week, the time of possession for the Colts, and again, you look at the rushing yards, and the rushing part of the defense is the thing that worried me going into the season, and 2 games into the season, yeah, that seems to be the case.
You look at the go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, you take a look at what the defense has done. They've given up 800, almost 900 yards.
Wow. In
the first 2 games. Time of possession, almost 80 minutes to 40 minutes in the first 2 games. That ends up being a 47-play differential. Our defense has been on the field for 47 more plays than our offense has.
And already shorthanded
exactly,
defense.
You can't continue this pace. You absolutely cannot with the defense that you have, because guys are going to start going down. I mean, you have to find a way to level this thing out, and it echoes back again to the offense. If you can't just keep going, it seems like that second quarter is a killer for us. It's, we had, after that first drive, we had 1 first down, and that was late in the second quarter, the pass to Justin Jefferson. That's unacceptable. You have to find a way to at least move the chains.
Yeah, they didn't have the penalties weren't a big factor. The interceptions were for Kirk Cousins, and he's been around the block for quite a while, but he just doesn't look like he's in control of anything right now.
Well, let me say this: on the interceptions, the one that he threw deep to Adam Thielen when he was double covered, that's on Kirk. The other ones, the one that hit BC Johnson in the hands, it pops up.
Yeah.
I mean,
slightly behind.
It's a little bit behind.
Yeah.
But he should have caught it. In my opinion, he should have caught it.
He got both hands on it.
And then the one in the end zone before halftime. How about get it to the end zone?
Yes.
First, but that's intercepted before halftime. So,
it's really two interceptions. Yeah. I mean, we all kind of look at these Hail Mary interceptions as like, oh, that's fine. I mean, that really shouldn't be in the stat book, but nevertheless, he didn't play a great game.
No, he did, and I think that's something he discussed a little bit. We'll hear from Kirk just a little later in the game. And let's take a look at his scatter chart right now, and you guys want to comment on this. I mean, 11 out of 26, 113 yards. At one point, I know in the first half, his quarterback rating was 1.3 or something. I've never heard of anything like that.
He ended it with a 15.9.
Yeah.
He had a 0 going into the third quarter. So, I mean, just inefficient. And you're seeing other teams. They get the quick throws to the outside, kind of a long handoff, the quick kind of throws to get the rhythm of the offense going. There's nothing there. From a tight end standpoint, we tried to get Irv Smith a little bit more involved. There were a couple nice plays to him, but still delivered kind of late. Ben, you pointed that out during the game.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the incomplete right at the 20-yard line between the hashes. That's the Irv Smith incompletion. And you talked about, Pete, this not being on time at the top of the drop, being in sync with his wide receivers. That ball in particular should have been thrown about a step before that. It was a good concept. It was a good design. The execution was just a little bit late and allowed that safety to get a beat on what Kirk was doing, get downhill and disrupt that pass play. So those are the little things. That's how small the windows can be in the NFL, that you have to make snap decisions right now. And I think their zone defense was fantastic today, but it should not have been that effective against an experienced quarterback.
The Vikings have had good success against Phillip Rivers, a 17, 18-year veteran. He really didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot today to try to win this football game. Became more of a game manager, but just spread the ball around the best he can. And this is what he knows. He's a pro's pro and knows what he needs to do.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And, that's really what he does. Is not necessarily a game manager, but I also think his timing was not the best, and he left some meat on the bone, so to speak. There are a lot of more open receivers, but you've got to look at this and say, my God, you lose Paris Campbell early in this game.
Right.
He's your speed guy. He's the guy that they would go to in the slot when teams would blitz or they'd see man-to-man. Yeah, you still have T.Y. Hilton, but you got to give him credit. I mean, who thought Mo Alley Cox would be a 100-yard receiver?
Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, that's the thing. He's the number 3 tight end on that team.
Unbelievable. Well, 1 week ago, I remember on a key fourth down play, Holton Hill knocked down a pass against Aaron Rodgers. But today, the Vikings came back and made a great defensive play here. A combination of Harrison Smith and Eric Wilson that combined in this interception here, Pete.
Yeah, it's a great job disguised by Harrison Smith. Starts outside, moves himself inside, and you'll see Eric Wilson has his eyes on. This is why you hustle to the ball. For tips and overthrows, Eric Wilson in the right spot. But this really is a play by Harrison Smith. You see his vision go back to the receiver, cuts off the high shoulder, tips that ball up in the air, and Eric Wilson is Johnny on the spot. So a nice, what a great play in the red zone. And then to go 3 and out.
That's what I was going to ask.
And then we punt, and it's a terrible punt. And the ball.
Yeah, right.
After that, you get 3 plays, and it's 1st and 10 from the 36. So as a defense, you're doing things. Last week, you stopped the Packers 1st and goal from the 1-yard line.
Right.
You get a turnover this week, and then you go back on the field, and as a defense now, they have to quit. They just have to take the field when they are called upon to do so. You can't get caught up in what the offense is doing or not doing. You just have to go out there and play ball.
Both you guys are former linebackers with the Vikings. Ben, in particular, when Eric Wilson makes a play like that, it's a huge lift for the defense. You get to the sidelines, you go, man, what a great stop. And then the momentum just goes like that. And then you got to go back on the field right away.
Yeah.
Does that just wear you down after a while in the time of possession and after what happened last week? Mentally just get worn down a little bit?
Confidence is a beautiful thing. When you come out of the tunnel and you're confident as a team, you play differently. You play better. You play more inspired. You play with the pep in your step. I think it's slowly building up that this defense may get a stop. But then you go back and you look at the offense with a 3 and out, and you're like, come on, guys, what more can we do? You know, we're bending, we're not breaking, we're doing our part at times. I mean, they are to blame a little bit too. But yes, you start losing confidence pretty quickly when the other side of the ball is not performing.
We can get more into this later, but the Vikings seemingly have some holes and issues in the middle of that defensive line. Michael Pierce opted out of the season. He was a big free agent acquisition to kind of plug the run game. He's not here. Danielle Hunter's on the injured list. Then you get Anthony Barr get injured today. It doesn't seem like the Vikings defensively, like a lot of teams, just have a deep enough personnel to kind of fill those spots, and a very young secondary as well.
Yeah, and you look at the hole that Michael Pierce left, and we don't know how he was going to play in the system, but you know, they call him the juggernaut for a reason. He's a big man that gets a lot of space. And so you lose that. And now we've gone to small ball. And now our defensive front is getting pushed around. They're not getting off the field. And then late in the second half, they just get worn out. And we go back to the topics before, and you talk about Phillip Rivers. He doesn't have to play great when they take the formula that we as a team should be adopting.
Correct.
Run the football, grind it out, wear out the defense, and then make little dink and dunk plays and let your receivers pick up first downs. And so that's the formula for success.
And you saw that with Jonathan Taylor. He a very, very much downhill runner, and then the first touchdown that he scored, it was downhill, and then he just cut it back. He kind of surfed that wave, but it was the movement that Quentin Nelson and Glowinski and Kelly were getting up front. We never had any type of penetration to make that running back make a quick decision. Eric Kendricks, I think, played as well as he possibly could. You know, he's amazing when he knows when to keep it front side and when to play the cutback. But defensively, the defensive line, you need somebody to at least get some penetration, play on their side of the line of scrimmage, and we didn't get much of that today at all.
And you talked about it during the broadcast. Jonathan Taylor is very fast. He's 4.39 vertical speed, but he's a bigger back.
Right.
You know, the focus should have been to stop his feet a little bit, make him redirect. Even if you're in the wrong gap defensively, shoot that gap and make him stop his feet, and then you allow your pursuit to get there. That didn't happen at all today.
No.
The Vikings did make a trade to get Yannick Ngakoue from Jacksonville, and he was going to be a big part of this team. What he does is get to the quarterback and strip the ball from the quarterback, and we saw that happen today. Unfortunately, Indianapolis fell on the football, but this is really one of the few times we've seen in the last 2 weeks where the Vikings have actually touched the quarterback.
Well, 2 weeks in a row, you've had a lot of tight ends, and this is the first time Yannick Ngakoue has just been able to rush off the edge. I mean, Anthony Costanzo just laid off the ball, and this is what Yannick can do. He gets there, but he gets the forced fumble as well. I mean, him hitting in the back causes Rivers to drop the football. So it's not only the sack, but getting the ball on the ground. That's an opportunity for the defense to recover. I mean, it falls on somebody. Somebody has to make a play. The defense, you can't point the finger at the offense and say, well, it's all on. No, you have to go out there and do what it takes to win. And Yannick was able to come up with a big play on that in that example, but someone else got to be there to fall on the ball.
And what did he do after that? He played inspired run defense.
Exactly.
He's fired up.
You're jacked up. You're fired up. You see what a big play can do. Yes, they recover the football, but the very next play, they come after him in the run game, and he bodies up the tight end and pushes him back into the backfield. I mean, that's what big plays can do. And unfortunately, with the defense playing the way they are, very inconsistent, you need to take advantage of those momentum swings.
Yeah, we saw Aaron Rodgers last week use Aaron Jones, and today, and Jonathan Taylor is not the starting running back. Unfortunately for the Colts, they lost their starting running back for the season, I believe. Taylor, as Gopher football fans know, was outstanding running back at Wisconsin, and he had an outstanding day. Went for the books today, 26 carries, 101 yards. And I'm sorry, that's just not supposed to happen.
No. Well, you've given up over 150 yards of rushing 2 weeks in a row. And that's been kind of the staple of this defense is to be able to shut down that running game. Now, things are starting to trend, it's just too much on the ground for 2 weeks in a row. But it all kind of runs together though, because we haven't put any pressure on teams to throw the football. We've been 2 scores behind for a vast majority of the season already, and that allows an offense to take their time, to run the football, to dedicate it. When you look at the way our offense has had to operate the last 2 weeks, by getting into the fourth quarter, we don't have time to hand the ball, to Dalvin Cook anymore. We have to throw it.
Right. Getting back to the defense, I mean, you think about what Linval Joseph meant to this team. Remember what Pat Williams meant to this team. Maybe that's what Pierce would have meant to this team. And when he opted out, I think the Vikings, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, they had to be stunned. I mean, they go, now what are we going to do? Because he is was going to be such an important facet for this defense. And how do you replace them with some parts in there that just don't represent what they were investing in?
Yeah, and I think you can't underestimate the fact that what a big body can do in those situations. And it may sound simple, but when you ask the offensive lineman to not only just put 2 hands on the guy, but 4 hands on the guy to move him, those 2 hands are now being used to go up to the linebackers and now being used to get to the second level. And it really eats into the style of what Eric Kendricks and some of these guys do. They need to run to the ball. They need to run unabated to the ball carrier. And when they've got a bunch of trash and things to fight through, that's where you can get in troubles on the second and third level.
Yeah, and we're not going to know the status of Anthony Barr's injury until tomorrow. I'm sure. I don't know if it's a shoulder. Would you guys hear anything in particular, or just so you went out of the game and that was it? But again, a guy they just cannot afford to lose for this defense.
And I want to piggyback on what Ben was saying. When you talk about the running defense, I think Danielle Hunter is a very underrated run defender in this league, and his ability to spike and to come underneath or stick and get underneath the tackle and get penetration on the backside and eliminate some of those cutback runs. I think, do we miss him in the passing game? Absolutely, but I think we also miss him quite a bit in the running game.
Good point. Ben, I know you got to run. We appreciate your time here, and we'll catch up as the week progresses, and hopefully things will be better here next week at US Bank Stadium when the Tennessee Titans come to town. Meanwhile, head coach Mike Zimmer addressed the media. Let's hear what he had to say after today's loss in Indy.
Yeah, they got after us pretty good today. We didn't control the ball offensively, and we didn't make enough plays defensively. So we're going to have to get a lot better quickly.
Mike, the offense had some continuity and returned a lot of the same pieces. Why do you think they're struggling as they are?
Yeah, I don't know. We're not making plays. We're not. We didn't throw the ball very well today. We ran it okay early, and they're a good defensive team. We just I'm not sure why exactly, but we got to get better fast.
Sorry, did it feel like this game came apart for the offense the same way it did last week with the safety, and then good first drive and the safety, and then from there on out they couldn't get much going? Yeah,
the first drive we got helped by a penalty, but the second quarter was not very good. They possessed the ball a lot in the first quarter, and we possessed a lot in the first quarter. But our field position was awful in the second quarter, and then the interception and the safety, all those different things that happened right before halftime. We can't give up those kind of points and plays and field position. This team has kind of been built on controlling the time of possession, playing great in the red zone and on third downs, and we haven't been doing that very well. So we're going to have to get back to work and try to figure out what's wrong, because the identity of this team has not been what it has been for the last 6 years.
Mike, last week you talked about correctable mistakes. Are these mistakes correctable, or is it get to a point where you got to look at different personnel?
Yeah, I don't know, Joe. I've been telling them we can't start winning until we stop losing. And right now we are doing things to beat ourselves with the turnovers and sacks and safeties and penalties on third downs on defense. And so I'm just not going to deal with it anymore.
Mike, what was the problem with the run defense? It was just a really good offensive line, obviously, but the inability to stop Taylor early, especially.
Yeah, well, Mark, honestly, I was trying to help the corners out a little bit more than I normally do because I didn't want, ball going over our head. Same thing about the, not beating ourselves by giving up big plays. So we're playing a little bit more conservative with the coverages. So it meant a few less guys in the running game. And then, and obviously they got a good offensive line.
The words of head coach Mike Zimmer and Pete Bercich. You've been in that coach's room before. I think Mike's quotes were, among other things, we got to figure out what we're good at. Number one, I'm not going to deal with it anymore. Take us through what in a coach's room, when you're looking at your personnel and you're trying to do X's and O's, how many more X's and O's can you do? And in terms of execution, as opposed to just relying on your personnel. They got Derrick Henry coming to town here next Sunday, one of the best runners in the NFL.
No, you're absolutely right, and that was something that you saw early. I think defensively, Eric Wilson and some of the linebackers and safeties. When Rivers is under center and they're getting ready to snap the ball, and you look at the linebacker and he's turned around asking questions,
pointing.
That's an issue.
Right.
And then you have a misfit, and it's a 12, 13-yard run. So you have some mental errors along the way. Those are the kinds of things that drive coaches crazy. I mean, when you have a game plan or you put people in positions that they just can't get the work done, you're asking a linebacker to cover a wide receiver. Those are on the scheme. Those are on the coaches. But when players are not doing the execution, you look at the touchdown at the end of the game with Jeff Gladney. You have two corners and two receivers. It's first out, first inside. It's pretty simple. And when guys are not out there and they're not able to do and execute some of the more simple parts of the defense, maybe it's time to give someone else a chance. Maybe it's time to let someone else get in there, and that's motivating. It should be motivating, but we'll see.
And when teams are having issues, you've got to rely on your leader, and many times it's the quarterback. And quite frankly, Kirk Cousins just not getting it done. A week ago, a lot of other things may have gone against him. This week, you can't say that. There are a few drops here, something else could have happened, but he just did not take charge of this football game. Let's hear what Kirk had to say after the game today.
All right, I'll just start by saying, today was not a sharp day, and we just got to get back to work now and watch the tape, correct mistakes, and have a major sense of urgency about the way we work this week going into week 3. I'll take any questions you have.
Hey, Kirk, I think early on you were able to find Adam Thielen for a few grabs. What kind of fell apart from there after the first drive?
I'm not sure. Probably a combination of things, and I'll have to go back and watch the tape to be able to give a better answer.
Just overall, Kirk, the offense, I know you guys were behind by a lot against Green Bay, but showed some good rhythm and had a strong finish last week, but just couldn't do much at all today. Why stuck in neutral?
Not sure. Probably a combination of reasons. And, after watching the tape tonight, tomorrow, probably have a better understanding of, all the pieces that we can improve upon.
Kirk, why have the first drives worked so much better than in the first half of the first 2 games? Those first drives have worked so much better.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all the pieces that would, keep you on the field, converting third downs, avoiding penalties, staying in manageable down and distances, and being efficient with the plays that you call. Anytime you stub your toe in any of those areas, it makes it tough to sustain a drive.
Kirk, did it feel like this game for the offense came apart kind of in similar fashion to the way it did in week 1?
I don't know. It's hard to compare the 2 games. I think they're each their own entity. I view them as separate games.
Kirk, what was your view on the safety? Sort of what happened in front of you?
Yeah, just was going through my read and just obviously felt pressure and tried to move, and then they had me in the grasp and just tried to get out of the end zone the best I could. That's another one where, tough to explain all that went on unless I can watch it and kind of see what took place.
Kirk, are you surprised at all by the struggles of the offense, given all the continuity you guys have this year so far?
Certainly disappointed. It was just a poor day, and we'll have to go back to work and make corrections and really have a great focus this week as we prepare for week 3 and come out with a much better effort next week.
Well, Kirk Cousins will unquestionably have looked at the tape by the time we sit down and do Under Center tomorrow, so I'll try to extract whatever I can about what he saw on tape that he really couldn't comment about after the game. But back with Pete Bercich. The head-scratching thing, I think, for Viking fans, and Kirk is coming off arguably his best season as a pro last year.
Yeah.
But the question I think everyone has is when adversity is facing you. We saw it in the playoff game in New Orleans where he led the drive at the end of the game. But you need a guy to kind of pick up the slack, find a way of making the play, extending the play, keeping a drive alive. We're not seeing that right now. We're just 2 games into this thing. The train's left the station. No one's going to feel sorry for you. And you got to figure it out and figure it out fast.
You really do, and you have to figure out who you're going to throw the ball to instead of Adam Thielen because he's hyper-focused on one receiver right now. And, they asked him, what did you see in front of the sack? Well, he got to the top of his drop, and he was looking around, and just that ball has to get out more quickly. Now, I understand, go back and we got to do things better. Can I see someone get upset? Can I see somebody on that offense step up and say, you know what's happened is unacceptable. We're not going to have this continue, and put themselves on the line and say, we're going to make each other accountable and turn this thing around. Right now, you come out of the game and you look and you go, are you guys even upset?
How does that happen? When does that happen? As a former player in that Viking locker room, is it on the sidelines? Is it in the post game when there's no media around? Or is it meetings tomorrow morning? When do the leadership, when do those players step up and have to do the yelling and screaming and hitting the blackboard or whatever they're doing?
It's making the guys around you accountable, and then you start by leading by example, and it starts on the sideline during the course of the game. Mm-hmm. It's getting the guys together and saying, hey, whatever is going on so far isn't working, isn't acceptable. We need to all get ourselves and bring ourselves together, right, and move it forward. But I just want to see someone take accountability for the offense, because you got to have a player to do that. You can't just the coaches are responsible, yes, for quite a bit of it, but the players are the ones that have to execute it. And so they're the ones that need to take ownership of this and have somebody say, I'm the offense, I'm the identity, not just, to go back and look at the film.
Right,
we
hear that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I get that, and I know why. I just want to see somebody not be happy. Right. I mean, not like, no, they're not happy, but I mean someone that's upset, that has something to them that this week, wants to step up and do something about it.
Well, one of the quiet leaders on the defense is safety Anthony Harris, who along with Harrison Smith make up really kind of the strength to a great extent of what this defense is about. And Anthony did have a chance to talk to the media after today's loss as well.
Anthony, how much of maybe what has not gone right with the defense can be attributed to the fact you guys just have had to be on the field so much these last 2 games?
I think, we've just been trying to take the 2 games to go out there and adjust. We got to continue to get on the same page, continue to get lined up quickly, and then go out there and just play fast and execute our job at a high level.
Hey, Anthony, I think Mike Zimmer had referenced some conservative coverage calls, maybe helping Jonathan Taylor and that Colts running game get going early. I guess just as a safety, how hard is it to kind of find a rhythm when you bounce back and forth between being in the box, being back, compared to week 1 to week 2?
I don't think, you really have to look for a rhythm there. I think, as players, you get the call and you go play. I think being in and out of the box, as being versatile players, myself and Harry, we just pride ourselves on whatever the call is, whether it's being in the box or being deep, get in there and then executing the job once we get there.
Hey, Anthony, you got a lot of young players, obviously, on defense coming out of the gates. How much do you miss all of those veteran defenders that you didn't have that left the team during the offseason?
Well, I think for us, it's just, going with what you got. We believe in the talent that we have. We know they're young. They know they're young. But at the end of the day, they're professionals. So that's how we treat them. And that's the confidence that they try to go out there and play with. So we just going to keep plugging away, keep getting on the tape, keep getting better, looking to keep improving as a team and as a unit, and try to get better and ready for next week.
Keep in mind the Vikings were missing Cam Dantzler, who's out with a rib injury. We don't know what his status is going to be for next week. Jeff Gladney had a chance to play. We did see Xavier Rhodes, meanwhile, play for the Colts. He knocked one pass away from Thielen. I don't know, just a great defensive play, a little underthrown combination. Yeah. But with the whole revamped secondary and now missing people, it just seems like it's a lot of stuff that they got to get fixed in a hurry without much time to do it.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that stand out with Anthony Harrison, what he had to say was he talked about conservative coverage calls.
Right.
What exactly does that mean? Well, it usually means keeping an extra safety deep to, the help on the pass, right? They have an extra safety because, the Colts a week ago threw the ball a ton. They were through the air almost the entire game.
That was it.
So I think they were expecting them to really throw the football a lot more than they ran it. That's really all that means.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be a little softer in the run up front. And I think what Zim's going to want to do is, especially this week against Derrick Henry, I mean, you're going to have to get aggressive. You're not going to be able to disguise. You're going to have to do specific things to force the quarterback to throw the football, because you try to play in two deep safety against this next group against Tennessee, they're going to, they're not going to throw the ball once.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill's a pretty good quarterback in his own right, so they won again today. Let's check the NFC North right now, man. The Packers and Bears are already 2-0. The Bears did it again. They held off the New York Giants in the last play of the game, and the Giants had a chance to win it. The Green Bay Packers, meanwhile, the Lions shockingly had a 14-3 lead in that game. But they are the Lions for a reason, and Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and company at the empty Lambeau Field rolled 42-21. So there it is. I mean, it's clear as day already. The two teams that are leading the Pack and the Bears, the Vikings and the Lions playing catch up, and we've got a long ways to go on this thing. And the Vikings are back home against the Tennessee Titans next Sunday here at a fanless U.S. Bank Stadium, and I don't know what kind of impact again that's going to have, but it's pretty much around the league. We're seeing other teams. You can't just say, well, they didn't have the preseason, didn't have OTAs, didn't have this, we're behind in player development, blah, blah, blah. Other teams have the same situation. Other teams are looking pretty sharp and put up a lot of points on the board that we're not seeing here in Minnesota at the moment.
No, and the one thing that they're going to have to do going forward is sustain some drives. Now, whether that's with running the football more, we're seeing everywhere we go the quick passing game, whether it's a flip to a guy who's really technically running a jet sweep or like a reverse, or the quick throws on the outside, let your athletes make a play in space, let the quarterback get a little bit of a rhythm, something. It's just when the timing is bad, it is bad all over, and our passing game is definitely out of whack right now. So you got to pocket that a little bit. I think you're going to have to turn and go to Dalvin Cook and say, Dalvin, you're the guy in the fourth quarter that's running people over and maybe scoring touchdowns. We're going to do or die with you. We have to. That second quarter, it's 2 weeks in a row, Mark, where that second quarter has just been awful, where our defense has been out there in almost entirely, and then the Colts get the ball first thing in the third quarter, and next thing you know, your time of possession is 2-1.
And it's not a new system. Gary Kubiak is the new offensive coordinator, but he's been here. He's been in the league for 27 years, and for the most part, they had to shake up the offensive line, but Kyle Rudolph is here. They got Irv Smith Jr. back. Diggs is gone, but they felt that the combination, I think, of the other wide receivers they had would contribute a little bit, and Diggs is having a great start for Buffalo. Just a lot of people, a lot of changes, and it's not all fitting in right now. We got some programming notes to bring you as well for the upcoming week here on Vikings Postgame Live, starting Tuesday night. Vikings replay at 10 o'clock on Fox 9. Wednesday, Under Center with yours truly and Kirk Cousins, 8 p.m. Fox 9 Plus, and then also 11:35 p.m. on Fox 9. The Voyage as well on Vikings.com, new programming there. And on Friday night, Vikings Connected, 8 o'clock on Fox 9 Plus as well. That all leads up to the weekend. Saturday, Vikings Game Plan, 10 p.m. on Fox 9, all leading up to next Sunday's game here at U.S. Bank Stadium. Vikings Game Day Live, 9:30 a.m. on Fox 9. Vikings All Access then here as well. We'll be back for that one at 11 a.m. on Vikings.com to preview the Vikings-Tennessee Titans game. And they all become big wins right now, but if you look at that Vikings schedule, the quarterbacks are facing, the teams are facing, from Deshaun Watson to Russell Wilson on the road. They better pack a lunch and get it fixed in a hurry, as Mike Zimmer said, because he's probably not going to be a happy camper when they hit the TCO Performance Center tomorrow for meetings.
No, absolutely not. And with all, you look at what the Bears have done, you get lucky and win the opening day, and then you carry that momentum, you get a last minute score to win the second game, and next thing you know, you're 2-0.
Right.
Well, you're already starting out 0-2. You're behind the eight ball, and with every loss, these are the losses that come back to haunt you later in the season. Well, when things start going well, and if you could just split and go 500 with these last two games, it's it's hard to overcome these later on in the year. And our schedule, like you said, doesn't get much easier over the next few weeks.
Well, let's hope there's a lot of soul searching going on and these guys can figure it out, because it all begins again next Sunday morning as well. Thank you for watching Postgame Live, presented by Mystic Lake. We'll see you here next week as the Vikings, I mentioned, take on the Titans here at US Bank Stadium. Watch Vikings pregame, all access starting at 11 a.m. and always catch us after the game to break it down, streaming live on all the Viking platforms. For Ben Leber and Pete Bercich, Mark Rosen, have a good afternoon.